Hello, this is What's the Deal with our second podcast, and today we'll be talking about the Royal Tenenbaums, and this is the end of the school year, end of the class, the last assignment, so we're going to try and have some fun with it. The first question is, the film begins with a description of the family. What character seems most heartbroken in the childhood portion of the film, and why so? We're going to start with Victoria.
Okay, so I think that from the beginning scenes, I think that Margot looked the most brokenhearted because she just always had like this blank stare on her face from like the very beginning, like even like when she was a child. And I feel like children normally like have like a big happy look on their face, but she like has always had like a blank stare. And then she like even from the beginning when she was adopted, she was always like introduced as the adopted child, which I think did have an effect on her.
Yeah.
So,
Sammy?
I agree with both of the things that Victoria said there. The only thing that I would add to that, besides just the fact that she's emotionally stunted and that she's treated as the second-class child, would be that Royal is constantly, like, undermining her achievements, and he doesn't appreciate or respect, like, her, like, I guess just what she wants to do, like, because she wants to be the playwright.
Yeah.
And he doesn't care about it the way that like children are meant to be cared for. He doesn't provide that to her.
Yeah, I just think like they just like lack that connection. The only other thing that like I thought about when I was looking at this question is when you look at like Chaz, it's also definitely pretty messed up in the childhood portion, but a lot of that he's able to sort of outwardly express his frustrations with rejection, and Margot more or less like exclusively internalizes it. Yeah.
And I think that that's why she's more heartbroken, is because of how much she internalizes it.
Yeah. I think like they both like you said, they both kind of have their struggles with it. They just handle it in different ways. And I think Chaz feels probably so much aggression because he's the oldest. He understands more than like the others. He probably like saw shit hit the fan and the other ones didn't. But Paige?
Okay, so like everyone else is saying, I believed that Margot was the most brokenheartedness. And then I like thought about it more, and I kind of think Richie. Because it's like he was the favorite, and watching his dad kind of go off on his other siblings, it's like, well, there's nothing I can do about it. And he was always the most emotional. He has this weird connection with his sister. I don't want to talk about it. But I was like, he seems, I don't know, he just seems like he's always been struggling, even though he is the favorite. Because he has to do good with his sport career. And then when he fell off the bandwagon with that, everyone was like, well, what are you doing with your life now? And then he ran away from his problems and went overseas. Yeah, that's it.
So I think Chaz, because like from a young age, like he couldn't trust his father, like with the BB gun that shot with him. And I think that like makes like his father lying like later in the story like so much worse, because he finally felt like he was like letting him in again.
No, I definitely agree with that. Because I mean like it's kind of like a funny scene because it's like, oh, I'm shooting with a BB gun, but it's like, it's like to a kid, that shit hurts. And then like it's kind of just, yeah, I'll talk about it later. Jarman?
I think Margot, like, she's the most depressing because, like, in the beginning, you could see her body language is, like, really down. She slouches. And, like, when her parents start telling her that they're getting a divorce, she was like, is it our fault? So I feel like she feels like it's their fault that they're getting divorced. And maybe, like, that caused her to be, like, depressed and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think these are all great points. I think they're all brokenhearted in different ways. Like we said, like Richie's very emotional. Chaz really can't handle his emotions. He kind of just turns all of them into anger, and Margot doesn't like really let any of them out. And I think for that reason, I think Margot's the most brokenhearted because, like you said, she kind of just internalizes all of it and doesn't necessarily like. She kind of doesn't do, I don't want to say she doesn't act like it's not there, because it's definitely there. She just doesn't do anything about it. And, like, I think that's, like, probably, like, the least healthy out of all of them. So, now with the second question, Wes Anderson is famous for his Meticulous directing. What element of the film stood out most to you? Colors, sets, set designs, props, costumes, settings, music, flashbacks, camera work, etc. Why did this element stand out to you so much? Be specific.
I think that the camera work really stood out in the Royal Tenenbaums because, like, most of this movie is, like, really shows, like, the brokenheartedness, and with the way, like, the camera is, like, you can feel the drama and you can feel the sadness, and there's also a lot of, like, silence in it too, which also, like, sets the tone, and I think it really, like, makes you, like, feel what they're feeling almost. So yeah, I think the camera work is the most important.
No, yeah, I mean, it's like just the color scheme of it,
Right.
and like it's just such a cinematic movie. Like literally just watching it, it kind of reminded me because I saw Civil War like 2 weeks ago. It kind of like gave me like similar vibe. I think it adds to like the story and to like the different random cuts that are there. It's just like a little backdrop of like whatever city they were in, and I think it really adds to the story. Tammy?
I think that the music is the most notable element of the film. It has the two main songs being Hey Jude and The Christmas Time Is Here. Hey Jude has the lyric, take a sad song and make it better. And I think that that speaks to like the trajectory that they're on in their family relationships. And then with Christmas Time Is Here, it's a song written for Charlie Brown, who's, you know, the lovable loser. And I think that they all are pretty much losers in their life right now, and you like
God.
like you feel bad for, like, you know what I'm saying, like Charlie Brown is such a pitiful kind of character, and I think that that's where they are too. Like you feel for them, like you care about them, but also they all suck.
Yeah, in their different ways.
Yeah.
Paige?
So I had to do some research about Wes Anderson to see what his other like films and all that he's done, and just by the looks of them, because he's made the Grand Budapest Hotel, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and all these other ones. They all have that vintagey yellow filter on it, so it seems to be a common theme. It seems to be like one of his what's the word I'm looking for? One of his one of his things that he just does. And then I also know, because I've also seen he made like another show or whatever, and I saw some scenes from it, and he keeps the long scenes like a thing.
Yeah.
Where why is the scene so long? Like no one's talking to each other.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I like that he does that, because no one else does it. It's like talk, and then on to the next scene where it's like talk and marinate in what's going on.
Yeah, I think it just kind of adds to like whatever the story is that's going on.
Yeah.
Jamie?
So the thing that stood out to me was like the colors of the sets. Like there was one scene where Margot and Richie are sitting on a couch, and everything in the shot is like a warm color, like red, orange, or yellow.
Yeah.
And then there's another one where Chaz and his sons, they're either like brushing their teeth or like shaving or something, but it's all like blue, and it gives it like this calm effect, but it's also like very intense at the same time.
Darling?
At the end when Richie was chasing Eli because he caused the dog to get crushed, we can see like a one-shot effect, or what's it called? One shot.
One take?
One take, my bad. A one take shot, and I thought it was really interesting because you can see how it showed us how Richie was chasing Eli around, and I just thought it was really interesting how many different ways he would like cut them and like not, I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess like the biggest takeaway for me is just like I said, just like the photography of it, or just like the cinematography of it. I just like the different color schemes. Like you said, different scenes, like they'll mix like warm colors with other colors that aren't warm. And it's just very interesting. I don't know, it just makes the movie like kind of fun to watch. And yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about it. So for question number 3, before they all move back into the house, do any of the characters have healthy relationships? Why or why not?
I personally think, okay, so I think that each of them have their individual like flaws and struggles, and I think that affects their relationship with others. So my answer to this question is no, just because like if you have like a struggle within yourself, it like really affects the people around you.
Yeah.
So you can't really have like a completely healthy relationship if you're going through those struggles within yourself. So
Yeah.
I think none of them do, just because they're all going through stuff and like they're all trying to work themselves out. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's hard to maintain relationships when you can't really have one with
Right.
yourself. Sammy?
I agree with that point, but I do classify Etheline and Henry's relationship as within the range of healthy, just because while Etheline definitely has issues with herself and what she's been through, like the trauma with Royal or whatever, the reservations that she has with that relationship with Henry, I think are really normal and understandable, and the way that he treats her and how differently it is from the way that she's been treated by Royal is like what makes it on a very healthy trajectory of like even if at a one moment at the beginning it's not like this isn't the best, you can tell that like it's probably going to work out.
Yeah.
And I think that in general like that comes from the fact that Henry has a lot of patience even with Royal, who doesn't deserve that patience.
Yeah.
And I think that like just because he's such a better man than Royal is in that aspect, it allows that relationship to be just something that I consider to be healthy enough for the sake of this question, I guess.
I guess like I honestly forgot about like Henry and Etheline's relationship. Like, and, like when the question kind of came out, I was kind of just thinking about like the kids. But when you said, I was like, oh yeah, the relationship's just like normal. Yeah. And like I think that's what makes Henry so likable is the fact that like he even like he understands Royal to like such an extent, because like Royal was like. He was like there was a scene where they were walking. He was like, "Oh, like, I'm such an asshole, aren't I?" He was like, "I don't think so." Roy was like, "I just think you're like." He was like, "I just think you're like." He didn't call him a bitch. I forgot what he called him, but he was saying like you kind of just make a lot of mistakes, and like I think that him having that understanding makes him that much more reputable to be like a husband. But
I also just really appreciate that when he's challenged by Royal, he can be frustrated, but not get to this like overprotective state. And like when Etheline sort of like tells him to stop when they're fighting in the kitchen or whatever, he'll listen to her even when you can tell he really doesn't want to. So I just think that like he has so much respect for her. You can tell that he genuinely cares the way that like some of the other characters don't necessarily care for one another.
Paige?
I mean, yeah, the Henry and Etheline are healthy. Everyone wants to be like them. But I think looking at the kids, no one was really healthy, but I think, okay, how do I want to phrase this? I think Margot was in a healthy relationship, but herself wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
So it was like the healthy was coming from one side. So it was like technically she was coming from a healthy relationship, but she's not.
I think that her relationship might have been like, I guess, definitively healthy, but I just don't think she really liked him.
I don't think she ever liked him.
I don't think she ever really liked. I just think like he like people thought he was good for her, but like I feel like she always thought of him as just like boring. Like I don't think she ever thought he like just was different from anybody else. He like didn't challenge her and
couldn't do it like Richie.
All right, Jamie.
So I'm gonna say they don't have any healthy relationships because I feel like a big part of this movie is the fact that they're so like all the characters are so emotionally stunted that they can't like connect with other people and like form those relationships. I'm gonna say no.
Okay, Charlie.
I don't think they do either because they all have like their specific problems. Like with Margot, you can tell she has communication. No, not Margot. Yeah, Margot. The lady. Yeah, Margot. She has communication problems because with her husband, she would lock herself in the bathroom for 6 hours and she wouldn't tell him nothing. She would just be there alone. So I feel like they do have problems.
Yeah, and I guess it kind of goes back to what Paige was saying. It's like Margot wasn't necessarily there for herself to be in the position to be in that relationship. But I think it's a mix of Margot wasn't there for herself, but also she just didn't like him. It's like when you combine those two, like she's gonna be distant and like spend 6 hours in the tub. But yeah, I mean, I definitely do think that the only healthy relationship really is Henry and Etheline. I think it's like it's a nice insight to what love could be like when you're older. Because, like, it's just Phil doing a lot of just casual stuff, like working together. Like, they were on, like, a dig site. That was kind of cool, just walking around, like, a cemetery. Like, I think it just kind of, like, it kind of has, like, hope for, I guess, them too. Because, like, I mean, they both have their own things going on. Like, Ethelene was, of course, divorced to Royal, and, like, Henry's wife died. But, like, I don't think that I don't think that them two are stunted. I think that they're, like, both in the right mindset to, like, be willing to be acceptable of love. And I think that allows them to have a good relationship. In a sense, all the characters are protagonists in the film. What character seems most memorable to you? Why so?
I think I have two. I have Chaz because his relationship with his kids is like interesting. I feel like you don't really see that a lot, and the way like they like all dress the same. I feel like it's unique.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't know.
It's definitely silly.
Yeah. And then Margot, I don't know. She was always looked at. I don't know. I always like remembered her because she was just so like unique as well, and I don't know, like, she was adopted, like, she was always looked down on, and, like, she just seemed the most broken heart to me, but that kind of goes with the first question, but I feel like I relate number 4 to number 1, because, I don't know, I feel like it's just the most memorable. I don't really have an explanation for it, but...
Sammy?
For me, Richie is the most memorable. I just can really appreciate, for the sake of cinema or whatever, how extreme he is.
Yeah.
You know, like when he loves Margot, he loves her from the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
When he's like, I'm gonna kill myself tomorrow, right then, like everything that he feels is so extreme. Like the fact that like his sister gets married and that causes him to just throw away everything he's ever achieved. Like it's just so extreme that like it's a good representation, in my opinion, of like the way it feels when stuff's going wrong. Like I just feel like he is very symbolic of how out of control it feels inside. Yeah. But for him, it's all, you know, external.
Yeah, I definitely do think he kind of, I guess, wears his heart on his sleeve.
Exactly.
Like, just, like, not even by, like, choice. It just happens, like, during the tennis game. When he was just sitting there, just, like, holding the racket, he was just crying. And they were like, oh, his sister and her new husband are just, and he was, like, crying. That was...
And, like, for me, he's one of the few characters in the film that I think I can sit there and root for.
Yeah.
Just because, like, all of the other ones, even accidentally, like, really hurt each other. And, like... He really only hurts himself.
I can root for Richie, but like at the same time, like you have to stop at some extent. It's like the goal you're trying to get is like really strange. Like even that, like when he was talking to Eli, and he was like, "Well, not biological," and he's talking about Margot. It's like, but bruh, you can't do that.
I just feel like the film is so clearly taking place not here, like in our... I don't know. I feel like it's in its own, not dimension, but, you know.
Yeah, I guess.
Like,
literally,
where,
it's
like,
not reality.
I can imagine a world in which it maybe is less bad than the way that I'm going to look at it because of, like, how we live.
Okay. Paige?
I agree with Sammy. I think that Richie is the most memorable, but for laughs and giggles, I'll do Royal. And honestly, because it's like, who would do that to their family? Like, I think about that and I'm like, why would you fake that you have cancer?
I hate him.
Right, like, it pissed me off because I was like, why would you do that? You put your ex-wife through so much. And then all your kids, but then of course Chaz knew from like the moment he said, "Oh, I have cancer," and then I was like, it's kind of strange how things changed for him and how he really wanted to like be a part of everyone's lives again. I don't know. I was just like, I don't know. he stands out because he's just so stupid.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's stupid, but I guess he's stupid for love. I guess that's kind of what just makes it. I guess I'm kind of like rooting for him. It's like, oh, Royal, like,
come on, get it together.
It's like you can do it, but not by saying you have cancer. Like, don't do that. It's like, I get what you're trying to do. Like, when he was on the steps, he was like, well, like, I still love you, but it's like
He doesn't do it the right way.
no.
Yeah.
I think he's such a fuck up. It's kind of funny. And I don't even really feel sad because he doesn't feel sad for himself. It's like, you would think, like, wow, someone like that's miserable. But Royal, like, well, maybe he internalized it, but we never see he's like, oh, like, damn, I, like, really messed up. It's
Yeah.
like, or even if he is at that point, it's for, like, 2 seconds. And then he's just like,
on
well,
to
next
the
lie.
thing.
Yeah. Jamie?
So for me, Chaz was probably the most memorable because he was just like so high strung and paranoid, and I feel like the other characters didn't like outwardly express their like worry and stuff the way he did. Like if Margot had something going on, she would just be sitting there on the roof smoking a cigarette, whereas Chaz would be like actually like running around talking about it, worrying about it.
Dron?
To me, the most memorable character was Henry, because he still loved Etheline, even though her family situation was like really weird.
Yeah.
So I feel like he was so memorable because he loved her so much that he would go through all that just to be with her.
Yeah. I definitely do think Henry, like, I don't know, I think Henry's just like, I think one of the two, or not one of the two, there's like a few characters in this are like completely, I want to say, like, put together emotionally, like, mentally, and I think Henry's definitely one of the prime characters. I think one of the most memorable is probably, like, Riley. Just, I know it's like, oh, what the heck, and he's, like, boring, but, like, I think he's just so normal, and it's like, he makes, you can really see the problems that people in the family have when, like, you bring Raleigh around, because he's just like a neurologist. That's just like his job, and he's not really moved by much. I don't know. He just seems like a normal person who just has a job, and he's in like such an interesting like world of the Tenenbaums, and I think that makes it memorable because like it feels like what it would be like if just say one of us were to like be in a situation like that if we were like 30. That's just kind of what it feels. I feel like he's like the most just genuine like human character. Now for our creative question, we have, which of the characters do you relate to or sympathize with the most? Victoria?
I don't feel like, I don't know, it's hard for me to put, like, for me to relate to any of them in, like, a specific way. So I think that I sympathize the most towards Chaz. And I know, like, everyone has, like, this, like, idea that, like, yeah, he lost his wife. And, like, that's the only reason, like, we sympathize towards him. And, like, yes, I do feel that way, but I feel like if he's that, like, paranoid and, like, crazy about, like, his, like, children and, like, all the people that he loves, like, he has a big heart. And, like, I feel like we can see that throughout, like, his care for his family. And I feel like him being that paranoid makes, like, it, like, shows how much his, like, losing his wife hurt him, if that makes sense. I don't know, that's kind of a lot, but...
No, it's okay. Yeah, I definitely do think Chaz is so, like, and it's like you can tell, like even the fact that even Royal can tell that he's still hurt by it shows that Chaz is really showing, because Royal doesn't seem too emotionally intelligent, and he's like, you're still, like, hurt over your wife, and he's like, don't ever, like, say her name. But, yeah, Sammy?
So for me, I sympathize the most with Richie. Again, just because I just feel like he's so clearly the most craving of being loved, like loving someone else, and he wants to be loved back, and like I just can really care for that sort of plight.
Yeah.
But the character that I relate to most, unfortunately, would probably be like Chaz, who is just like my least favorite character. But I think he's like my least favorite for all the reasons that I relate to him. Like just watching him like deal with his shit and take it out on everybody else.
Yeah.
Is just like brutal to like sit there and go through it.
Yeah. Paige?
I feel like I relate to Margot and Richie because watching Margot, yeah, she's really going through something. Like, I feel bad for her too. But it's also like, I know what it's like to be put down by like your dad and to be like talked down to like that and treated like an outsider in your own family. So I'm like, oh my God, same, twins. And then it's also like with Richie, oh, he has such a big heart. And I feel like, of course, depending on the person you are to me, I am like someone's Richie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I know what it feels like to want to give so much love to someone and then them not like want it or, you know, me not, you know, just end up being alone.
Yeah.
So I feel like I just relate to them the most, honestly.
It's interesting. I feel like that's probably why I guess they connect so well. Is because they're kind of like opposites in a sense.
Yeah.
Jamie?
So I probably relate the most to Chaz's kids. My parents are like very like paranoid people. They were the type of parents that were like, if we're out in public and you leave my line of sight, like you will get kidnapped and murdered. Like, so yeah, I relate to them. I don't remember their names, but
I don't know if anybody knows their names.
Uzi and Ari.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. Jarlin?
I feel like I relate to Paganda because
Oh, what's his name? Royal's like right-hand man that keeps stabbing him.
I feel like I relate to him because I'm the middle child. So like I'm always being told to do everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I relate to.
That's interesting. I honestly,
That's such a unique
Yeah.
character. I did not see that coming.
I kind of forgot Pagoda was a
Yeah.
character.
Yeah,
I guess the character that I relate to the most is I'm gonna say Richie, just because like I've had different times where like I'm so emotional about things that you necessarily like, I guess shouldn't be, or that most people wouldn't be, and I think the character that I sympathize with the most, I wanna say probably Raleigh or Royal or both. I say
Sympathize with Royal.
Okay, I sympathize with Royal just because it's like his intentions are good. It's just his
No, they are
execution
not.
is so poor.
He has bad intentions from the beginning.
Well, okay,
The first
he's
intention
definitely a
was for
cheater
him
He
for
to get
sure.
stumbles
money.
into good intentions, but the original intentions is just to manipulate his entire family.
Yeah,
Well-
to
To make
get
sure
money.
Ethylene cannot find love, and so that he is not broken homeless.
But the
And then
reason
he accidentally is like, oh, what if
Well,
I care about my family?
okay.
It becomes really crazy.
no, but like the reason why like all of that happened, like the reason why he's like trying to like get back into the house so he can get the money, it's really not because of the money, it's because he loves her.
No, it is
Yes.
definitely not.
I think
You found
Oh
out
my
his
God, that's
funds
such a
were
bad
going
take.
away.
I think
That's a hot take.
all right, hot take. I think Royal is a genuine person who has terrible execution.
I will concede that I do believe him at the end when he gives Ethylene the divorce papers and says that he loves her.
Yeah.
I do think that is the first time though that he has ever actually meant it.
I'm not gonna lie, I was watching that and I was like, what's the gimmick? I was like, what's the trick? And then he was just like, bye, and just left, and I was like, that's it? But I guess Raleigh, like, I just feel bad for him because I guess it's what makes him so boring is the fact that he doesn't do anything to entice you. It's like he's just so like flatline neutral. It's like he doesn't necessarily like, he's not fun. Like he works a serious job, so like I guess he works a scientific job, so I guess it kind of bleeds into his personality. But I kind of just feel for him because like he seems to be a good, caring husband, but just like as a person, it's like he's kind of boring.
very
But
bland.
yeah, he's very bland. All right, so this is for number 5. Even though the film begins with a very heartbreaking event, Royal and Etheline's divorce, it's not the only heartbreaking thing. What other events break these characters' hearts as the movie progresses? Which one stands out as especially heartbreaking and why?
For me, okay, I think pretty much all of them had like heartbreaking events,
Mhm.
but I think the one that stands out the most was, let me find it. Wait, sorry guys. Okay, I think when Richie like attempted suicide, I think that was caused because of like his love for Margot, and I think that really shows like his personality and like how big his heart is. But I think because of that, it caused him to like like looked down on himself, and like it really affected him as a person, which is why like the events like added up, and then he like wanted to attempt suicide. But yeah, I think that's basically all I had to say about that. I think that's just like pretty much one of the most heartbreaking like moments I saw in the movie.
Yeah, that whole scene was just because I mean I guess it's kind of funny because some of it still rings true. It's like something like bad happens or like significant happens, you'll go and like kind of like look for different physical changes, like you'll shave, you'll cut your hair off, and Sammy.
So, we know that Margot in the Tenenbaum house is super rejected, but I think that it is especially heartbreaking when she leaves to go find her bio family, and they're also not what she expected they would be, and like she also doesn't really have a place there.
Yeah.
Like for me, that's super heartbreaking. And then when she returns and she's sort of like run away with Richie, and like it is nice that they have each other, but like in the context of like us, the audience, knowing that like he also has weird intentions with Margot, so she really doesn't have a place in that relationship also. So just the fact that like repeatedly this pattern of like Margot trying to find her family and never really finding it is the most heartbreaking. Yeah,
she kind of has really, like you said, no place to really call home. Yeah. And like, it's just like we talking about the scene where she met her like biological parents. It's just like that scene, it's like, yeah, it's sad, but like they make it so funny. It's funny, like, go ahead and grab that timber. And
it's
like,
so tough.
Yeah, but yeah, it's kind of sad. She really doesn't have anywhere to call. And like, even like you said, like with Richie, it's like, that's the one person you think you can like just have like a normal relationship, and it's like, nah, I love you. I like love you to the point I would kill myself. And it's just like, damn. Paige?
Well, I agree with Victoria. God, I do that all the time. Victoria and Sammy. But honestly, I think what Royal did to Chaz and trying to like steal all of his money was like a what the fuck moment. Like Chaz worked so hard, and I feel like I would feel so used by my dad if his end goal was to take everything that I made for myself, which is why we don't sympathize with Royal, but whatever.
Okay, I mean, that's each their own.
But I think, and it's just like, Chaz was always like, well, what did I do? Why did you shoot me with the BB gun? Or whatever it was. We're on the same team.
Yeah.
And I think Chaz was like, we were on the same team about like what I was doing, and you went behind my back and took all my money, all the things I worked so hard for.
And I guess that's just Chaz. Like, Chaz, I guess, just takes everything so personally. Or, like, he has every right to pass the BB gun stage, but, like, during that, it's like, to a kid, like... It's just, I don't know, it's just interesting, because, like...
It literally is personal if your pops shoots you in
okay.
like, with a BB gun.
Yeah, but it's like, why did you shoot? I mean, like if it was...
personal.
I mean, if it was like...
That's crazy.
There's a lot of hot takes coming out of your
All right, I don't know, I just feel like he just takes he like internalizes everything that happens, and like, but I guess that's the only time it's like, all right, it's fun, it's nice. That was like actual pistol. It's like, why the hell did you shoot me? Like, yeah, like I get it, but it's like the BB gun. It's like Rose just like, ha, I shot you, but like Chaz did not find that funny at all. And I just guess like that kind of, he just let that be like, anytime Roy let him down after that, he'd be like, I think he'd kind of call back to that mentally,
because he's never on his team.
Yeah.
Even when he's meant to be on his team, he shoots him from behind.
Yeah.
And steals his money.
Right.
I think, like, the one that stood out to me the most was just when, like, everyone found out that Royal had lied. Because it was like they already, like, had this, like, weird, strained relationship like, between him and his kids. And then they, like, kind of start mending that, and then it just gets destroyed again.
Yeah, that was... And it even is kind of funny because, like, I guess looking at Richie in that situation, because Richie, like, I don't know if say he's gullible, but he definitely has the biggest heart out of all of them. He's the most forgiving. So it's like, even after that, he wasn't necessarily, like, as mad as, like, Chaz was, because Chaz was like, see, like, I told you, like, he's always, like, letting me down. But, yeah, John?
I feel like an event that broke the character's heart was when Chaz and his whole family, like his wife, his kids, and his dog, had to go through that accident. I feel like that was very heartbreaking for them, and I bet it affected him mentally a lot, especially since his kids were there.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Are you talking about what? Like when
The plane accident when his wife died, right?
Oh yeah, well yeah. Yeah.
That's like defining for his character.
Yeah. I guess he just never really feels like he can win. Or I don't know, because like him and Margot, I guess, kind of have that same tendency where it's like Chaz is always like being like effed over. Like Chaz definitely gives him the vibe of like, why me? What?
Well, when your wife is taken out of
Well,
the
no, yeah, no, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying like, like looking and like reflecting on his life, he probably feels that way, but it's like Margot also kind of like feels as if she can't really have anything, but in a different sense, like you said, like with like a true home. Okay, but number 6, Richie's suicide attempt is the most obvious demonstration of depression. Do you think other characters are depressed in the film? Why or why not?
I think this question kind of goes over like all of them. Like every question kind of goes into this one. So yeah, I think pretty much all of them have a sense of depression, like in some sort. Like Margot was neglected, Chaz lost his wife, Richie, like he was obviously like depressed. He like showed that with like drastic changes, like shaving his head and like the tennis like match, and yeah, just all of it. I think they all pretty much show like at least one event of like depression, and like I think that's part of the whole film, with like all of the kids having like a flaw and like in their like mental health. And I think that, yeah, I don't know, I think that just like shows depression in all of them.
I agree. I think that maybe all of them, because Margot is either Margot says or Ethelene. I think they both just explicitly say that Margot's depressed. I think that Margot says I'm depressed, and Ethelene says Ethelene says that Chaz is depressed, and that's why he's coming home.
Yeah.
So we know that Chaz is depressed. Eli has depressive tendencies with his addiction. Ethelene is unable to accept love from someone. That's pretty much a sign. And then the only one that I like am hesitant to say is Royal, just because like
I think he deflects any like.
I don't know if he has the capacity to be depressed.
Yeah, that's literally it.
That's true.
I think he covers it up because you can tell how lonely he is when he's around everyone, and then he starts to feel like, oh my god, this is what a family feels like when he finally stops being fucking selfish. But it's just like you can tell he was like, oh, this is what it's like to be loved. This is what it's like to, actually care about people and put them first and not me first. So I definitely think he was not necessarily depressed, maybe, but I think he was just so lonely. That's why he had a second-hand man.
Without the narrator to tell me, like specifically, like, and it was at this moment when Roy realized, I probably wouldn't feel like he feels anything at all.
Like I don't think he goes into like self-thought enough to be depressed. He kind of like, I don't know. He just doesn't have that capacity, which isn't a good thing. It's really not, right. But like,
I just think he's so careless. Like,
yeah. I
don't know if it's like him putting on this act around his family, like just trying to act like it doesn't really bother him. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think no, that's exactly what.
But like,
I think
he could just go like to where he's lonely and like really like reflect on it, and that's why he wants to be part of the family again, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think he does, like, I think he understands, but I think he just, one, he doesn't know how to show it, and two, like, I don't know, I think he's just so careless about it that he just doesn't know how to.
Maybe he comes from like, because Royal's like definitely older. He probably comes from a time where it's like they just kind of act like their problems just don't exist. Like maybe he's like been unconsciously like just like throwing them out the window so long, he like truly thinks that like there is nothing wrong with him, and that's probably why he's such a fuck up, is because like he can't really like observe his own actions and behaviors.
There is one moment I think where he kind of takes some accountability with when he's talking to Richie, and I think.
Are you talking about when he was in the hospital? Or talking when they were on the balcony? Yeah, with like the falcon.
He sort of implies that like
he could have been he
all
could
of
have been a
his
better
problems
dad.
are
Yeah.
like his own doing, so that would make sense as to why he doesn't like feel depressed.
Yeah.
I feel like you don't necessarily have as much like depression when you can recognize like, oh well, I kind of did this.
Yeah,
to
but
myself.
even then
It's
it's
kinda
like
just the consequences
yeah.
of actions.
But even then it's like when he was like talking about that, it's like I don't want to say it's not like he had emotion, but it's kind of like he was just like being like conscious of it. Oh yeah, like this is because of me. It's like it wasn't like a terribly sad scene when like you could say like it really should have been because like look at your kids. But all right, Jamie.
So I think at least the kids are all depressed. And I think it stems from like none of them are like where they want to be in life.
Mm-hmm.
Like Margot, she like writes plays, but she's not really doing anything with that at the beginning. And then Richie is like a failed tennis star. Like Chaz's wife died, and he probably feels like he failed as a husband. So, yeah, I think they're definitely depressed.
Charlene?
I think what everybody really said sums it up. All of them have had a glimpse of depression. I feel like the only one that I see is not really depressed is Etheline, the mom,
Mm-hmm.
and her husband Henry, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that like Etheline and Henry definitely aren't.
Well, they
Oh,
aren't
well,
as depressed.
Well, yeah, aren't as depressed as the other ones. I really just don't think that they're depressed. I think Etheline probably was in that state for like during some point, but she like got out of it.
That's
I think
how
it's
I see it.
yeah, but it's like they're older, so like they understand it more, and like I think that her and Henry are like they're so different from everybody else.
Yeah.
They're literally just like a normal like a beautiful old relationship. But I really don't want to say that Richie's depressed. I think Richie's actions just are like so over the top. I think that he's just like a little bit. I don't want to say manic. 'Cause I think Eli's definitely a little bit manic. Like Eli's like drug induced mania. Like I think that Richie's so like, can't you see like I love you? It's like. I don't want to say he's depressed. I think Margot's depressed.
I really think with confidence we can say that the man who committed suicide has depressive.
Okay. Yes.
Some form of depression. I if you want to say it's like manic depressive,
I think it's definitely all right. I'll accept the fact that it's
definitely a low this man is hitting, that he's killing himself.
It's a low, but I wouldn't say it's a low as somebody with like severe depression. It's not like he's just like in this like Richie's not just always in like a low state. Like Richie like.
But
I
you
feel like we
always
don't
have
see
to.
him enough
Well-
to see what he does alone.
I feel
But then
like he's
at the-
always slow. I feel like the man is pretty low, guys.
all right,
Because
sorry,
it's
I
like he has the feelings for Margot, and it's like he threw away his whole career because of Margot.
Exactly.
So
You know
it's
what?
just
You're
like,
right. Y'all are right.
Like,
I'm
we
wrong.
know.
Sorry,
When is
it's
he
just
high?
to
When he's
me.
in the middle of the ocean because he's like, I need to just
Running
Okay,
away
I
from
guess-
his problem.
I guess the way that I see it, it's like I think Margot is like blatantly depressed, sitting in the tub with a TV, about to like almost like kill herself.
But she
doesn't.
tied it up.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I just think like Margot's tendencies or like even like her actions, like, oh, like, well, yeah, I don't want to go out and like talk
You're
to him.
killing me.
I
Let's
feel
just go
like
to the next
I feel like
question.
depression could just be seen in different ways. And
Okay, you're-
Margot versus Richie.
They definitely both got
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
you're right. They definitely both have it. It's just, I guess to me, it's like Richie's looked a lot more solvable because Richie's looked like I just really love this girl, and that's why I'm depressed.
solvable. You can't stop yourself from loving
No,
someone.
well, yeah. Oh, that's what I'm saying. It's like, but okay. Let me say, like, what I'm saying is like Richie, like, to me, it looks like if Richie were to just have Margot, then like all of his like problems would be solved. Margot doesn't
But-
give me that vibe.
That still doesn't
so
come off of the
crazy.
fact
Like
that
the
he's
solution.
depressed.
Okay,
like they're not
all right,
together.
all right, yeah, okay. Sorry, Richie's depressed. All right. Question number 7. Do you see overlaps between this film and other works, characters, creators we have discussed this semester? If so, which ones? Be specific. Victoria.
Okay, I think there's a lot of overlap, but I think the one that stood out most to me was Amy and Margot. And I know they both have like similarities and differences, but I feel like I don't know. I feel like I don't know. In my brain, they just relate. One, because they're both at times they're both very secretive. Well, Margot is like very secretive like all the time. Amy, I feel like she's very private, but with the exception of her songs and her music. I feel like that's like her outlet to her like depression. But I think if Amy was not like writing all of her songs, I feel like she would be very private like Margot. So that's in that way I think that they're similar.
I have two. I'll be brief, but the first one is I think Amy and Richie more so than Amy and Margot.
That is true.
I agree.
I didn't think about
Similar
that.
to Amy, Richie has a muse in Margot, the way that Amy had with her boyfriend, and Richie also struggles with this like unrequited and inappropriate love, and also this father figure that doesn't have their best interest.
Yeah.
The same way that Amy did, and so I just feel like those two are really paralleling one
That's
another.
true.
And then the other one, I see Margot super similar to Nick Adams in The End of Something, when she's breaking up with Raleigh. Just like the way that Marjorie had asked Nick, sort of like, isn't love enough?
Yeah.
That's true.
Or isn't it fun anymore? And just like a really empty, just no, it's not.
Kind of just like so sad
Like
to
that
see.
it really is similar to the way that Margot treated Raleigh at the end there.
Yeah, which you see why I feel for him so much now. Okay, Paige.
Whatever.
It's a good
I
time.
agree with Sammy, but I see it as Richie and Amy Winehouse, but I also see it through the perspective of you can see how depressed they both are. Richie tries to take his life, and then in a way, Amy tries to take her life because she knows the more she drinks, she's literally tried to OD so many times, and then it eventually happened. But it's like, it's so sad. Like, oh my God, they are going through not necessarily the same thing, but it's a similar pattern that they think the solution is just to end it all.
I'm gonna go back online. I think Amy and Richie too.
No, I definitely see what you're
I
saying.
see Margot
with-
too.
I feel like they'd be friends if they were together.
I
I
would
think-
definitely agree with that.
That's why I think
don't-
I relate them. I feel like they'd be friends.
I mean, yeah, I don't see it going well though.
I don't see it going well, but I feel like they both. I don't know. I feel like
Trauma bonding.
that.
Jamie?
Yeah.
So I think it was kind of similar to Darkness Visible with that idea of everyone's depressed, but like it manifests differently and they deal with it differently. Like you saw all of these different characters, like some more depressed than others, and like kind of how they deal with it.
Yeah.
I think Amy and Eli, like, they like go together because they both had like substance.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
I forgot
Yeah.
about you.
Yeah, like that.
And you see
Substance
with
abuse.
Eli, like the attention and fame that he gets makes it worse.
Yeah.
That's
No,
a good point.
I definitely do. You bringing that up, I definitely do think Eli and Amy's a good one. I guess just like the spiraling caused by like the drug abuse doesn't necessarily make it better. And it's like they both know that they should like stop, but no, they don't. Now for the last question. So Professor Diehl use this film next time he teaches this course. Why or why not?
I think you should. I think it's a good like. I don't know. I think it shows how brokenheartedness can be shown in different ways, and like how many different events can lead to depression and brokenheartedness. So I think you should. I think it's a good like. I think it's a different perspective than all the rest of the people that we like looked at, but I still think it's a good. And I like how it's like a movie. I
Yeah.
really like the movie. So
I don't love this film. I really don't. It's not for me. And I think that while I'm getting some looks, besides Jamie, I do think that there's other people who are going to feel this way. I think that there are better movies that show like heartbreak. I think that Little Miss Sunshine has a lot of the similar qualities to Royal Tenenbaums, whereas a lot of like really unique, sort of they're all protagonists kind of characters, and they go through trauma, and it's also a movie. Like I just think that there's other options out there that aren't like I think that Wes Anderson films are a little much for me, and I'm definitely not the only person who feels like that. Hopefully.
Paige.
I don't know. I feel very neutral about it. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. If you took it out, great. You could find a better replacement. If you kept it, great. You know, whatever you want. I don't care.
Okay, Jamie.
Professor Diehl, this is nothing personal. This movie, I don't know why this movie made me so angry for some reason. Like, I did not like any of the characters.
Yeah.
And I feel like some parts of it were so slow and everyone was just kind of like
Yeah.
standing around looking at each other. And I was like, do something,
Okay.
please.
Charlie?
I agree.
I don't really watch movies, so I don't really care. But I don't know. The movie made me really sleepy.
Oh man, I feel that. I think it's fine.
Okay.
It's because I can't really pay attention that long. I don't know.
Okay. Mr. Diehl, I love this movie a lot. I don't watch movies that often,
neither.
but when I see one that I love, I really do love it. And I think this was a very great movie. And I think that it properly shows the complexity of brokenheartedness and how you can like deal with it in different ways, like Margot internalizing it, or Chaz outwardly showing it, or like Richie just being very emotional. And yeah, I do think you should keep showing this movie. I think it's a great one. Besides what all of my colleagues here said.
I really appreciate the characters being such good demonstration of brokenheartedness.
Yeah.
But I just like, I feel the way that we felt like where we didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
Like Kendrick and some of the other stuff. I just feel like Jamie said that this movie feels long.
Yeah.
Even though it's not. It's just, it lingers in
It's-
a way
But
that's
like at
just
the
like.
same time, it also feels like it's missing something.
And it's like I'm not satisfied with the ending.
Yeah.
You know? Like what now?
I think it's really like, okay, I'm not saying there's not conflict, because there is conflict, but like,
It's,
I guess it's just kind of mundane a little bit. That's the best way to put
it's
it.
crazy to say that. It's
But like, I mean, that's
but
what y'all are
I
saying.
feel it though, like, but it doesn't. Yeah.
All right. This has been What's the Deal podcast, Mr. Deal. It's been a great year, and we hope you enjoy our podcasts. Thank
We
you.
out.
Bye-bye.
Bye.